Hey Gary, sorry, a little bit late. Do you mind if I record? I can set it so no only people that I give a password can watch the meeting. Okay, I'm recording. All right, let me get everybody in here.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Is E Younger a member?
Who?
Who?
E, do we have somebody with the last name of Younger?
Yes,
Okay.
she's new. I love these backgrounds some of you have. Look like you're in exotic places.
You sure look comfortable, Debbie.
I try to. Rick's here too.
Michelle, I didn't know they had palm trees in the desert.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Just not the ocean.
That's the palm trees. The desert is where they started, the date palm.
Yep.
Well, oh, he finally gave up or got in.
Who?
Richard. He just said joining for a long all that time, and then doesn't seem to have gotten in.
No, he's not there.
What did I do?
Hi.
My
Oh,
my mouse jumps around sometimes, which is really annoying when it jumps when I'm going to click on something and it goes to a bad spot to get clicked on.
Yeah.
So Gary said we can record this, so I am recording.
Thank you, Gary.
So any of you, don't be on best behavior because you're being recorded.
The troublemaker crew is here.
Yeah.
Richard's never come back.
No, he probably gave up.
Let me see.
Debbie, can you text him?
I'm trying.
Tell him if he sends me $5, I'll let him in this time. So I started a new job, a construction site, and I guess they finally did it. Maybe I'm just didn't know, but I was asking one of the workers what the stores were, and one of them says he thought it was going to be a $5 store. I was wondering when they'd go to a $5 store because they don't really sell stuff for $1 anymore at the dollar stores.
And what are you doing on the construction site?
I'm just taking pictures weekly pictures as they're building the place.
You gonna do a time lapse?
No, I was I answered a thing for the drone, but he had already had a couple of people, and the guy came back a few days later, asked if I could do ground picture. I think Richard is in now. Yeah. Everybody's in that's trying. I don't, except that Richard has 2 more. He's got 3 things he's trying to get in with. Richard, can you take your
Gosh.
mute off and tell me if you're seeing us
There it is.
and hearing us? Because it shows there's 2 more Richard.
I'm here.
Okay, so
Okay,
those
there it is.
two other ones of you in the waiting room I don't need to worry about them. Okay, thanks. Well, everybody that's trying to get in right now is in, so you can go ahead, Debbie.
Okay.
Is Sylvia?
Okay. Dan is there, so that's probably
Okay.
both of them.
Oh, there he is. I see that.
Okay. I was hoping that Eric Nansen would be here so that he could explain a little bit more. But maybe he'll come in later. If you haven't seen it, he did a post on our Facebook page that he's going to curate an art show, and he wants it to be members of our club and members of, I think it's a woodworking club that he's also involved in. So if you're interested in that, take a look at that post. And if he doesn't come on tonight, I will try to get a hold of him and have him clarify it a little bit more, because all he said basically was just send me your best pictures, and I think we need more information. So anyway, so I hope.
One
What?
other thing real quick, when you're done, maybe you could text Sandy, because she tried to get in an hour ago, and you might just let her know that the meeting started if she's still on.
She's here. I see Sandy.
Would she change her name? Oh, there she is. Okay, sorry.
She's here.
Sorry.
Okay. So I know we've got some people traveling and things, so I don't know who all's going to be here tonight, but I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. You may see on your screen an E Younger down there at the bottom. We'd like to welcome Liz. This is Liz. She contacted me last week about joining the club, so I'm glad she's here tonight. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Gary up here. For me, he's in the center at the top. And quite a few years ago, Gary was a speaker for us, and I remember that presentation. And since then, he's moved up to, do you live in Southern Oregon now, Gary? Yeah. You're gonna have to unmute yourself, Gary.
All right, there we go.
There we go. And I follow Gary all the time on Facebook. He has the most beautiful black and white landscapes, and constantly being awarded some award or another, or being featured in this magazine or that magazine or this show. And we're very, very lucky to have Gary with us tonight. And we're going to just turn it over to you, Gary, and let you share your screen. And we're looking forward to learning a lot.
Okay, great.
One thing I will say, I think it's really hard on our Zoom speakers when no one responds if they ask a question or something. We do like to keep you muted so that if there's background noise in your house or something where it's not interfering with the broadcast, but it's real easy to unmute yourself for a second and give them a little bit of feedback and response. Because I sometimes watch our Zoom speakers and they'll ask a question and everybody just sits there, and that must be very uncomfortable. So feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question or, need to make a comment.
Yeah, and if you don't know, you just press the space bar. It's a quick way to have to do it. You don't have to click anything.
Yeah. So go for it, Gary.
Okay, let's see if I can share this here. And we'll start with this one. And we'll do this button here. Should bring us up. Okay.
Looks good on my screen.
All right, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all for inviting me to make this presentation this evening, and for all of you to come and listen to what I have to say. So many of you, as somebody had mentioned, many of you had I've met in the past, at the North Valley Art League. Over several years, and in Reading in the area. So I used to live in Paradise, and unfortunately our home was one of the many homes that were burned down back in 2018. And since that time, just to give a touch update on that, we lived in Roseville near Sacramento for a couple years. Then we do have another home up in Trinidad on the North Coast, and live there. I'm still living there part-time. But about a year ago, we moved to Medford, and we're now living in most of the time up here in Medford. We've really been kind of in a nomad state, since the fire. We had lived in Paradise over 30 years, and really, it was unfortunate that it destroyed our home and all of our relatives and friends and everybody else. But we've moved on, and hopefully we'll be settled here in Medford, for years to come. My brother-in-law and in-laws live here, and seems like a nice place, and not very far from Reading, just over the lake and over the hills here a little bit. So to give you a little background here, some of you are familiar with this, is that let's move on. Let's change these slides, see if this works here. Okay, we'll do that, and we'll do this. Okay, so I've been doing black and white landscape photography for over 30 years, and that photo taken in Lassen National Park was when I was much younger. That is my 8x10 camera there. I used 4x5 and 8x10 sheet film for over 20, 30, 40 years, really. And I had to think about that number. And I've had photos on the web since 1997. There's another one with my view camera there. And that was my first website. I was using a Calumet 8x10 and Tri-X at the time. Those photos that were on my website at that time were photos that I had printed on 8x10 and scanned and made images in order to put onto the web. As far as professionally, I have been a professional photographer my whole adult life. I worked doing portraits, weddings, commercial work. I worked, some of you may be familiar with Life Touch. I worked for Life Touch for 25 years in Chico there. and doing school photography and in our lab there. I started doing photography back in high school and working on the high school newspaper back in Indiana. I then moved out to California and went to Brooks Institute in Santa Barbara, where I majored in portrait photography. My professional career was really doing that type of photography as well as working in the lab. I also taught at Butte College for several years, 5, 6 years there, black and white and color photography there. But during that whole time, I've been working doing black and white landscape photography. And I started really doing landscape photography back in '76 and started doing zone system work back at that time. I was doing initially started with some roll film on Hasselblad, but I almost all of my career doing black and white was using 4x5 and 8x10 cameras. The past 15 years, I've now been doing digital. And, my work was really involved with using the zone system, paper sensitometry, film sensitometry. I was a follower of Phil Davis and beyond zone system techniques for determining how to expose, process, and develop film and paper in order to get the best photo possible. There's some other photos that I included, in black and white magazine. I've been in there most of the past 10 to 12 years, had numerous gallery displays and single person shows over the years. Was in black and white outdoor magazine, black and white magazine. A couple of years ago, I had 2 books published by Amherst Media in New York, both on black and white digital photography, landscape photography, and the other was on iPhone photography. Both of those books are still available on Amazon for anybody who's potentially interested in them. My website, my current website is on isgarywagnerphotography.com. And this one is with, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the website host Art Storefronts, but I've been with them about 1.5 years now and find that they have a really nice system. They're really heavily into promoting photography as well as all art. Art Storefronts is really involved with all types of artists and whether painting, oil, photography, anything, any type of art. My previous website, which was under GaryWagner.com, was with Photo Shelter, which is also in New York, and it's really designed for professional photographers of all sorts. And both websites are still up, though the current one with Gary Wagner Photography and Art Storefronts is the one that I'm primarily using these days. My work has really been a lifelong passion for me. My professional work did center around portrait and school photography, but I did my art photography for the entire time of my career, and have really spent tremendous amount of time over that period making and developing pictures and creating images of the landscape. My interest has really been in wilderness as well as in done quite a few urban landscapes, so not too many of those are out there. There are some currently on my website that you can take a look at for anybody who might want to see them. And even though the entire process has completely changed over the years since we've gone from film to digital, the end product and the print and the black and white images that I make are still really very similar to the way they've always been. I've tried to use my my experience doing black and white film photography and incorporating that, into my digital photography as well. People say that, that working in the darkroom, that they really, that one of the best thrills about working in the darkroom is seeing those images come up in the developer. And I'd have to agree with that completely, as that it's always exciting to see those prints in the tray there and see what produces. There's still a lot of people doing film photography today, and but what I have found is that even though I always enjoyed working in the darkroom, I also get that same excitement when I see that image coming out of my Epson printers, and it's always exciting to see how it produced and what it looks like, and that's always a wonderful thing in order to have happen. Photographers that I've admired most of the time: Ansel Adams, Edward Weston, Paul Caponero, John Sexton. They've been really the people that I have followed through the years. My experience and style of photography certainly has come from those photographers, great black and white photographers of the past 50 to 70 years, and their type of work and the type of work that I do has been who I've modeled my work after, and enjoyed doing that type of photography. Let's see what's next here. Today's program is seeing in black and white. So we're going to talk about the agenda here is from color to black and white. We're going to look at a series of images, taking photos, camera and equipment. I'm going to talk a little bit about the zone system, because I don't think that could be left out of any discussion of black and white. Some of my thoughts on the landscape, some pictures and photos that I've made from vision to print, from camera to print, and then a selection of some of my favorite images of the past few years here. So the first one, here's a little blurb on this. Photography, I feel, is a very personal issue. I photograph mostly nature and landscapes. I only do black and white photography, though, as most of you know, with digital, almost everything that I photograph is in color and then converted to black and white. But the only prints that I'm really making these days are those that I convert into black and white. I don't dislike color photography, and certainly enjoy taking color photography when I see beautiful colors and beautiful scenes in color, and because I think that color has its own, wonderful qualities. And if I'm there and my camera's out, I'm going to take those images just like everyone else. But the images that I'm taking, that I do for my art photography, are really all images that I try and take and craft with the thought that these are going to be black and white images. The images you see in are my visions of the landscape, and are here hopefully to give you some idea on how you can see the landscape, and how that you may have a greater view of it, of black and white, as you look at your images and scenes and the pictures that you take. So the first section we're going to look at is under color to black and white. And this is a little selection of images here that were that I've enjoyed taking. And so all of the original images here are all in these are all color images. So we're going to look at some color images in black and white. All these first images here really are just straight out of the camera. They aren't enhanced. They aren't anything. They're just converted to JPEGs, and that's what we're seeing here. but they're really to give you ideas of how the scene looks in when I took these color images, and how you can, with some darkroom computer work, be able to convert those into exciting and interesting black and white photos. So what I was looking for in this image here was that I saw this patterns here and the reflection. We can see these lighter areas here. I'm always looking in images for any type of light in order to that will enhance the photo, that will create some dimension to it. So that's what it looked like when I did it in color. This was up in Bandon, I think I mentioned. And this is what I got when I converted it over to black and white. So yeah, so I added some contrast, and so I do dodging and burning in the on my computer, very similar to how I did it in the darkroom. I generally don't make massive I don't, I'm not really doing anything in AI. I'm not doing any type of fancy other type of conversions, but I do dodging and burning and contrast adjustment, and enhance parts of the image, just as I did with that little stick between my paper and the negative in the darkroom, and with that piece of cardboard with the hole in it when I burned it in. Doing it in digital is so much easier, and one of the really joys of it is that you can make the second print come out exactly the same as the first. For anybody who's had to print a half dozen 16 by 20s and have them all come out the same, you know what a trick that can be at times in order to make that happen. I was going to mention I have been having a little cough over the past week or so, so I'm sorry about that, and I'll try not to have it affect us too much here, but I have been coughing. So, second image here is a Sierra stream. And so it's this is a longer exposure. I do lots of long exposures, any place from, when I say long, I'm talking 1 second to 30 second are the majority of my images. But we'll talk more about that later. But this was a stream coming off of Vernal Falls in Yosemite. And I really, so what do we see here? We see some great looking rocks, and we have some nice looking water. I try, and this was about 10 seconds, by the way. So in my images, I really try and say, what is it that I want to show you, the viewer, about what I saw and how I wanted others to see it. So we've now taken and darkened those rocks down and lightened up that stream in order to enhance it. And really, so now when you look at this image, there is no other choice for almost everybody that's looking at it to look at the water and see the water in the movement and how it goes over the rocks, because that's really what I felt was the most important part of this image. You're going to see in many of my images, and I'm going to talk about that some more, is that I try and use light and lightness and shading in my images in order to enhance them, in order to create pathways for viewers, in order to see what I feel is what I wanted you to view and what's the most important part of my photo. All of these are obviously an artistic interpretation. We're not doing photos for geology books. We're doing photos to create art, and that's really what I've tried to do in doing my images here. This image here was taken in Bandon, and it looks like a fairly ho-hum image of the ocean there. It's standing on that overlook right at the beginning of a town there, and of where the rocks are. But what we really see here is this area in the background. This is what I'm looking at that I felt was going to be hopefully come out nicely. And so what we can do here is that with a little darkroom magic here, we can change from that image to this image here through enhancing, through dodging burning, through a variety of techniques. But it's the same clouds, the same sky. It's just enhanced in order to make it so that it's suddenly a much more dramatic image. I've also tried to lighten up this water here a little bit to have it a little more glowy, because what I really want you to see is these rock formations here, how the water comes within them here, and the sky was really just a bonus in the whole image. I am just as surprised sometimes as anyone else might be of what is capable, what information is contained in an image, and what is there in order for us to use to create and to create a more dramatic and interesting photo.
Hey, Gary, can I ask a question?
Sure.
What programs are you using for conversion? Are you going through several or using one or?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about that, but I am using Photoshop and Nik for most of my images. Yeah,
Okay.
but I'll cover that. I'm going to do a section on talking about that as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but it's a great question, because clearly anybody who does photography, they wonder, well, how are you doing these images like that? And yes, so but that is really how they are all created. So here's one on the North Coast as well. And what did I see here? Well, I thought this tree was kind of cool looking. Anybody looking at this picture now would probably with it. These little marks up here in the upper corners, those are my filter, and filters up there, and you can see that they're just popping into it, but we all know that how easy it is to remove those using using Photoshop. So from this image here to this image here, you can check it out. Hidden in that white sky out there is this beautiful array of movement and shadows and lightness in order to create really a spectacular sky. Before I said that the subject here was really these rocks. That wasn't what I felt was the most important part of this image. What I felt was the most important part was really the tree and the sky in the background there. And that's really what I've tried to enhance and show in this image here, because yes, I like those rocks down there. That's Camel Rock in Trinidad for anybody who's familiar with the area. But really what I thought was more interesting here was the sky and the tree. Moving on to Death Valley here. Death Valley, I've been there at least a dozen times in the past 5 to 10 years. This Mesquite Sand Dunes over by Stovepipe Wells. It is a spectacular location for anybody who likes this type of photography and likes the look of these images. Those sand dunes are just a spectacular place in order to photograph them. Most of the time when I go to Death Valley, so the two best times in order to photograph the sand dunes are immediately after the sunrise, when the sun is just coming out and skimming across the top of it, and within an hour of sunset. Those are really the best times that you want to be out there on those sand dunes. Many times when I go to these sand dunes, I'm getting there maybe 30 to 45 minutes before sunrise, sometimes an hour, and and with my flashlight and walking out there in the dark in order to be able to get a half a mile back or so, because unless there's been a lot of wind the night before, you need to be really hiking across those sand dunes in order to, for quite a ways in order to avoid footprints. Sure, you can remove some footprints in it, but most people walk across the top of these sand dunes right along this line here, because that's the easiest place in order to walk without falling off. And they leave footprints all the way across, and it really is a pain in order to fix all of those up. I mentioned that I get there early, and almost always, no matter what time I would ever get there before I start photographing, there is almost always one or two or three people, cars in the parking lot, and you can see their headlamps off in the distance on top of some sand dune, half an hour in from where I am, already there. So, you have to work around those people. It's a big area. And so there's a lot of dunes that are there. So that image became this image. And here it is before, here it is after. Of these for print quality, and that's really what I'm hoping it's going to be. What do we like here? I love this line going through here. I love the texture of the sand and the light skimming across it here. The ripples in these sands that come because the wind blows them, across overnight. The shadows here, the lines from the shadow, these are all spectacular parts of sand dunes, and really is what makes these images exciting to me. Here's one up on North Coast. This is near Crescent City, looking down on the water there. And so we have some nice movement here. This is probably just a few second exposure of the water coming in here. It's not a long exposure nor a short one. But that image there, I thought that looked nice, and that created this. I think this image to me looks just a little tiny bit too contrasty. Maybe I'd like to see a little bit more detail in the dark areas there, but I think that it really enhances the black and white, enhances the image, and makes it a lot more exciting than this image in color. And even if we made a spectacular image of this, we took our color image and we tried to enhance it in order to make the best image. What do we really have? There isn't a lot of color out there. There isn't a lot of contrast. There isn't any sun. There's just some cloudy skies. And so in black and white, it really gives us the opportunity in order to make an exciting looking picture for people to see. Excuse me. The next one here is Mount Whitney. This one of Mount Whitney here was taken, and so we have all of this stuff going on in the sky here. That's actually rain out there, and that rain is not looking like much when I took that photo, but when I enhanced it here and produced it in black and white, it really created a wonderful atmospheric effect in the sky there in order to enhance the photo to make it look the best, I thought. I do my glass of water over here occasionally, folks, in case you hear me drinking that. And but it's a beautiful scene out there from Mount Whitney. The redwoods, I photograph a lot in the redwoods. So having lived in Trinidad and been, I've been photographing in the Trinidad North Coast area since 1986. My in-laws first moved there in the mid 80s, and went there from Paradise up to Trinidad for years while they were up there. But the redwoods are I find to be a very difficult area in order to take good pictures. It's really easy to take a lot of pictures and have them great and have them come out nice. But if you want to make the most spectacular pictures in black and white, or in color, you really need a few things going on, more than what you can enhance with your darkroom work. And that is almost all of the best pictures that are taken of the redwoods have fog in the images, in the sky, in the background there, in the foreground. The best ones have sun coming through. I'll show you a couple of those yet, and a few other images that I have here. But sun breaking through always makes those rays go through the woods there, which produces wonderful looks. And the most important part of redwood photography is that you need to photograph big trees. You know, these little trees over here on the right, they make a nice looking forest, but you need some good looking trees in the foreground here in order to say, hey, these are the redwoods. The redwoods are spectacular, massive trees. And that's why I'm here photographing them. So this is how the image looked, and this is what I made out of that image. I tried to, so yes, did I move that light a little bit? You can see that the light is right now, the center of the light is up here in the left-hand side, right up here. I've kind of moved it down into this area here by some creative dodging and burning in order to say, I wanted you to have it look like the light's coming through the forest, that it's skimming across these trees, and have the viewer look at that light to say, okay, what's back there? You know, to make it into a more three-dimensional look. So it's about black and white, it's about vision, but it's also about how you want to interpret the landscape or anything that you photograph in order to make the best print possible. You know, my thoughts relating to this are not just for black and white photography. They're for anybody who's really trying to create what I feel makes the best images. You know, everybody has different opinions on what's the best image and how to make them. We're going to talk some more about that as well. But this is how I have viewed it and how I want to enhance my pictures in order to show them. This tree here with this light going across it here and that texture, that's just, in my mind, that's just great stuff. You know, I love the texture of these trees and the light back here in the woods. Let's see, moving on to the next one. Here's a picture of, this was at Vernal Falls, and portion of it there in Yosemite. And you know, I do lots of waterfalls, love water, whether it's on the beach or coming down off of a mountainside, and just a spectacular area. So when I was photographing these on film, if I was to take this same picture with my 8x10, at the most, I probably took 2 shots. I had one holder there and I did both sides of it, and maybe I did them the same or maybe I did them differently. But that was really the extent of my image taking for that waterfall. Today, when I do them on digital, I might take 20, 30, 50 images of this waterfall in order, at many of them at different shutter speeds, in order to create different looks of the water. You know, it's nice to say, and we can look in our camera and say, oh yeah, that looks really the best. But it's so much nicer to come back and put it in your computer and say that you have all these nice variations of how that water looks. Because whether you do stop motion water, or whether you do, you know, streams of water like this, or whether you create misty water by even longer exposures, they're all, you know, they all can look good. And it's up to you as the photographer and artist in order to make that decision on how you wanted to portray that water. In this one here, you can see that I kind of took a mid-road here. I tried to create some type of contrast in here and to create some almost ribbons of water coming down here. I thought that that showed the motion nicely and created a good look. Once again, you know, the outside of the image is very dark here. In all of the prints, I'm going to show you a couple prints that I've further on here, but in all of my prints, as I look at this image here, I see these dark rocks around it. To me, these rocks in this particular, on my screen, look a little too dark. in my images, I try and have detail from the lightest whites to the darkest shadows in every one of my images, except for very, very small areas of darkness that I would use for just as contrast or that black point to hold the to enhance the photo there. But that's really how the final image I want it to look. So whether it looks light or dark to you, there is detail in all my highlights and all my shadows. Here's a nice one in Yosemite here. This is about 10 seconds here. What did I like about this? Well, I like this tree on the right-hand side, but mostly I like these snow-capped rocks in here, and the fact that there was light here on the water and it was going back on the, excuse me, up the river here. You know, when doing snow pictures, you can take snow pictures. And I have one I'm going to show you at Crater Lake. But you know, you can do snow pictures. But if you want them to be the best snow pictures, there has to be snow on the limbs. So, and you have to be there almost right after it snows the next day if you want to have them come out to look the best. So here it is in black and white. And again, now what are we looking at? Now we're looking at this water going through here, these snow-capped rocks over here. That's all of the rest of this has been darkened down here because really I feel like the subject matter and the most interesting part of this photo is these rocks that are sitting here with the water going next to them there. This one here, this is up in, this is Baker Beach in Trinidad. And you can almost envision what I'm going to say because of these lines of light going through here. So it was a foggy morning when I was out there. You know, you notice there's no one on the beach. There seldom is anybody on the beaches, you know, at sunrise. Up in the north coast there, and you can almost always just have it to yourself. At the very most, there's a few dog walkers out there. A lot of beaches will get some early morning people going out with their dogs walking around, but otherwise, the spectacular areas. So it had been cloudy all morning, and then as I was, this beach goes on for about another half mile up the ocean coast there, and when I was coming back, I saw that the fog up ahead, overhead was breaking up, and you could suddenly start to see some light coming through over here. And then we saw these rays of light coming through it. So those rays of light became this in my image. You know, it really has, I think, enhanced that whole look. That sky became a little contrasty up there and showed with the clouds and the fog breaking up on the top there. But I think that the whole look of the rays going out onto the beach there and into the water just makes for a wonderful image. Moving on here, here's it's a rather dark and gloomier looking seascape with some rocks there and some water coming across them. This water that's going across those rocks is those are waves coming through there, and just kind of with long exposures making a just kind of a soft flowing look to the rocks. So what is our subject here? Well, it still is that water in through here in this area here. We have a little sky going on here, but how I interpreted this was to make something that was a little bit brighter to enhance that water going through there, to make it glow, to add a little light into the background here, because I felt I wanted us to go from looking at these rocks here to follow our path through, to go back to the sea and to see what the sky was doing there in the back. That's the picture that I wanted to show. Here we are back in Death Valley at the dunes. So this is a sunset photo, by the way. And what we're really looking at here, what I saw was these slight little lines of light going on the top of these sand dunes here. And all this little area over here, you can see a little glow going on in this area here, and some texture over here. So looks a little hazy, a little flat, but it does have some great potential with those lines in there. So this is what the image that it became for me. And there's a little more dodging and burning in places here, but it really enhanced what we were looking at. I darkened up this back corner here, and I also enhanced these areas through here in order to add a little more light. So we follow our light going here. We see some great and area up in the top here. These sand dunes are just wonderful places in order to photograph. And for those that don't want to be up early in the morning, going out and at sunset is a great time as well. The only problem is that there's usually a lot more people out there, and it's usually a lot hotter at the end of the day if you go into warm season or hot season as compared to first thing in the morning. Here we are in Zion National Park, and this is the Virgin River, and I'm taking a picture from the bridge there for anybody who's been to Zion. They no longer are allowing photographers to be on the bridge, which is really a sore point in my viewpoint. Last time I was there, they were doing a survey and wanted people to fill out a survey in the visitor center there. And for anybody who's been to many other national parks, take Yellowstone and Old Faithful, what did they do in Yellowstone? They created an entire viewing area with sidewalks all the way around Old Faithful. In Yosemite, they created right after the tunnel view, they put in a parking lot, with a sidewalk for people to come and see, be able to photograph Yosemite Valley. In my estimation, they should put another bridge across this river just for people to be able to stand on it for photographers. When I was on this sidewalk taking this image back a few years ago when it was still allowed, I bet there was 20 other photographers all on that same bridge going over the river there in order to take these pictures. So many of them are just very, very popular areas, and I think that the Park Service should put in a viewing area and photography area for photographers in order to take this image. This view here of the Virgin River is one that they've been using in their advertising for 20 years. Any pictures that you see of Zion will always include this view because it is the Old Faithful, it is the tunnel view of Zion National Park. So that becomes this. Trees lightened up a little, the water glowing there, the sky looking really nice against the mountain up there. I think it's a great place to photograph and has become so much more popular though in recent years. I think when I first went there like 15 years ago, there was hardly anybody there. Today, it is just a extremely crowded park, and tons of people are going there. It's gotten so much popularity, but it's good. It's great that people are going out there and seeing it. This here is Bonsai Rock at Lake Tahoe. You can see a little bit of Lake Tahoe is so clear. You can see some rocks down in there. The attraction has always been the little trees on this rock. You can find this location if you Google Bonsai Rock, and they'll give you a GPS coordinates so you know where to stop on the road. It is a little hike from the road down to the lake, but clearly if I can do it, you guys can do it too. And it's a wonderful location for photography. Excuse me. That became this. Here we go. Adjusted it just slightly here. We can still see some of that rock. It is a long exposure in order to create a glossy look over the top of the water here, but darken down the sky to enhance the rock. And it's really a spectacular, folks, for anybody who goes to Lake Tahoe. You see people stopping all the time on the road with their cameras taking pictures of Bonsai Rock. Here's what I would consider to be could be potentially a nice color image of some water and a long exposure here. If we were to darken this rock down here, enhance these a little bit here, cut off this in the background or darken it down, I think we could have a really nice color image here. what did I do in black and white? Looks like this in black and white. Think it looks good in black and white. Think it could look good in color as well. It is one of the few images that I take that has some color in it. Most of the images, if anything, if I ever think that I'm photographing something because it has a lot of color in it, those images almost never come out good in black and white. Really, that's not color. It can add and enhance in some times, but most of the time, the best photos do not come because color in the image. This one here, this is also in Trinidad. Wonderful area with this little opening across the water here. When the tide is really low, there's no water in here at all. You can almost go right up to the side of this little island out here. But really what I was photographing here and what I've been looking for a lot recently is the motion going through as the waves come in and out. So in that image here became this image here. You can see how the lines and the texture have increased, how now we're looking at really this has become our subject matter. Our eyes go back and look in this opening because how could you not, go back and look at that? These trees on the mountainside or on the island side here, they're looking good as well. Many of those trees burned down a few years ago. Somebody decided to set a fire on the island out here and they couldn't put it out. And I think there's maybe 8 or 10 dead trees left, and I think there's 2 trees that are still alive. So it's unfortunate that that happened. And so it's just not nearly as that the island out there is, especially when those trees fall down, is not going to be as beautiful as it was in the past. So we kind of went through my first selection here. These next ones here, which I'll go through faster, is that I just posted this on Facebook a couple days ago and then Instagram. And these were 12 of my favorite images from 2024. Just images that I liked and thought I would share with people. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, just picking out some images that I think were some of the best of the year that I liked, and sharing them with folks here. And if you go to my Facebook page, you can check it out there. So I went to Glacier this past early July, and unfortunately I've been there 2 other times in the past up in Montana at Glacier National Park. And but unfortunately, when I went this time, there was a wildfire that started just a few days before or within a week before and created some ugly looking smoke. And that's what we have in the background here. So I've tried to do my best with these images, but I just wanted to share some of these with you because, it's just something that you run into at times, is that you just never know what's going to happen or how the landscape's going to look, but my feeling has always been that if I go there, if I have my camera, I'm going to take pictures. I invested time, effort, and money in order to be able to capture these images. And I went to Glacier. I was there 5 days, went by myself just in order to photograph it. And it was really disappointing. This is Lake McDonald here. It's beautiful lake, gorgeous area. Does that hazy look in the background and enhance it and make it look nice? Maybe, but it wasn't how I wanted it to look. And so I was, with using Photoshop and some dehaze, able to get rid of most of it. But this was a pretty extreme example. You can see some little grain artifacts showing up in the sky here, as I've really been, it was pretty brutal on trying to get rid of that haze back there. A little bit, I think, looks okay, kind of gives a little great little look around these hillsides here in the background there. But regardless, I think it's a gorgeous area. It's a wonderful lake to photograph. The fact that it's so clear and you can see the rocks in the bottom. This tree coming in, I thought just really added to the image here. and made a nice look. Here we are at Glacier. I already talked about snow on the trees. Would I like some snow on these trees? Yes, absolutely. But it wasn't there. I was there about a month ago now, and I was able to, there was snow and I went there just to photograph some snow. I was hoping that there would be more in the trees, but unfortunately there wasn't, but it was a nice color image. Crater Lake is just a beautiful place in order to photograph. And, you're pretty limited in the winter time with just the area around the lodge in order to be able to use. But I thought it made an okay looking black and white image. The sky came out pretty nice. The snow in the front is looking good, and the lake is looking as beautiful as ever. Here we have another Trinidad image. This is a little inlet here up on the north coast, and where the water's coming in. So I love this view here where you're looking back at the water through the trees on both sides here. In the summertime, these trees have a lot of leaves on it, and I think it doesn't make as nice a photo. This was just actually taken in late November. This is a very recent photo that I did here. And this is what it came out with after I converted to black and white. So we enhanced this water a little down here. We took and added a little light back up here in the sky. This mountainside is looking really nice. And I think that gives us a really nice look of the ocean there and the fog and the clouds and the water. Here's another one. That's Trinidad Head in the background there. These rocks here, I love those rocks in the foreground. This piece of sand coming into here. Excuse me. The rocks over here, and then we have this nice little fog right through here, which I think makes is a nice addition to it. And so here's what happens when we convert it to black and white. You can see that now I've really tried to enhance the rock area in the foreground here and have our eyes drawn from this area back to this area to bring it up to the sky. I want the viewer to look all through this image. There's a lot going on in this image, but it's a beautiful seascape landscape. And I think that it's just a spectacular area with a long exposure in order to do this type of work. This here is up near Crescent City, and what we're looking at here in the front is snow or hail and ice that's on the beach. And I thought, wow, this looks really good. I think this actually would make a nice color image here because you can see this whiteness here. The water was looking good back there. I love this line of trees here and the sky in the background. What we have now is that when we converted it to black and white, there's still this area in the front here, but I am sure that nobody would ever guess to say that was snow or ice on the beach there. Just because, I've darkened it down in order to make it so that this is lighter here. And even if it was lighter, in order to make it look more like snow, what does it really say or show? It didn't say too much to me, but I think that it was a nice accompaniment here in the front of the image, and it added to the look of the image, which is really the main part of this is this tree line here, the clouds in the sky, the area here with the water coming in on the beach. I think all of those are just wonderful places. So in many of my images over the past 3 to 4 years, I've really been looking for water movement and trying to photograph it and have included it in a lot of my images lately. This is the same island that I was showing you before. You can see how there are a few trees that are left there and they're all dead now. But really what's the picture here is this motion here. And and the flow of the water here, that became this. And I think that it creates just a, a really interesting look in the foreground there that says, here, look at me. This is what, what I want to show you. And then our eyes travel back into the ocean, into the island, and to the sky behind it.
Gary, on
Pardon
your
me?
on your ocean ones where you're getting that motion of the foam and stuff,
Yes.
generally about how long are you usually
Oh,
shooting for
three,
something like that?
3 to 5 seconds.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, because if it's much longer, then it just becomes really completely filled with motion there. But if it's in a shorter time period, then we're able to see different parts of the water, so it doesn't all blend together. But here's one of Yosemite Falls. So I had an image that, if anybody looked at my website, they may have seen my image of Yosemite Falls Supreme that I did. This was my 2024. This was last year's image as compared to my one that I did the year before, which is really, I felt, one of my best Yosemite Falls images. But this is a nice image as well. I love these rocks in the foreground, the mist that's coming up here, the water that's coming down. The whole thing makes just a great spot. So I had a lot of difficulty. I took a couple dozen photos there, but I kept on running back and forth between getting out off the bridge area back onto it. And one of the problems that I had was that after every image that I took, I had to turn the camera around the other way and wipe off the lens or filter that was in there because of the mist was adding so much water droplets to it. My clothes just got covered in water as I was standing there because this wind and mist is just blowing at me, creating all of this rain constantly coming down. But I did do at least 20 images, and I did wipe my lens on every one of them in order so that I wouldn't have any problems. You can get rid of a little bit of that stuff on your lens in Photoshop, but really it hazes it up, and those droplets are really difficult in order to take out if you have a lot of them. So that becomes this. I think it makes a nice looking black and white image. The subject really here is this water in here, as well as the waterfall in the background. Trees and the mountains all support it all. The rocks, everything is a supporting cast in order for what is our picture here, our pictures of the waterfall and the water coming down. And that's really what I wanted to show and photograph here. Um, could this be a really nice color image of Yosemite? It could be. I was standing there in the spring. The river is overflowed its banks, and it was a beautiful morning. It was warm, it was sunny, it was just gorgeous out there taking these photos there. But what was I really looking at? I was looking at Yosemite Falls. It's up here. There's a reflection of it down here. And I felt like, that's really what I came there to photograph. These trees now, they look great. I think could be a lovely color image. And it is almost by itself without a whole lot of enhancements. I did a little video that somebody may have, if you go back through my Facebook and Instagram stuff, I did a video of this whole little area there while I was standing there, just because it was so gorgeous. But this is what I made it into black and white. So now really my subject is Yosemite Falls in the background. It's upper Yosemite Falls in the background there. And I've darkened down these trees some and darkened down these, made them all different tones here so that they would show up and create some depth into the image, and lightened up the falls so that really that's what we're looking at. I don't know if it's the strongest image, of Yosemite Falls in the area, but it was a beautiful area, and it was a wonderful day when I was out there photographing. And in my mind, that made it a special photo. Here we're back in Glacier, and you can see once again the smoke that's here. So this one was a little easier to work with than the last one. This was, just after sunrise as I'm going on to go into the Sun Road here, and it's a beautiful area and a beautiful park. First time I photographed it was almost 40 years ago with on 8x10, and unfortunately, all of my negatives all were unfortunately just along with my camera and everything else were destroyed in our in our Paradise Fire, but because I'd love to have some to compare it to at that time, but these glaciers in my mind have really shrunk down a lot. That image became this image here. So did much better removing some of that smoke in this image by using some dehaze and some other Photoshop magic in order to enhance the picture here a little bit. But same picture, same mountains, can see them here, and that's what we became there. A little contrast and a little lighting really creates a beautiful, beautiful look. For those who haven't been to Glacier, wonderful place to go. But if you're going to stay there in the park, you need to make your reservations way ahead of time. Those reservations, if you're going to stay in the lodging there, they're a year ahead of time. You have to make it on the day that for a year later in order to get those reservations, because there just isn't anything available. Either that or go someplace outside the park and travel in. This one here, this is also in Glacier. This is Virginia Falls. It's a trail that goes back. There's actually two waterfalls on this trail, St. Mary Falls and Virginia Falls. So I'm standing there taking this image, and it looks like I'm there on my own. If you look in the very bottom corner here, you can see a couple people here, and they're doing a little selfie. So I was there probably 30, 40 minutes before I was able to take the first picture, because there was so many people came up and so many people wanted to have selfies taken in front of this waterfall. But I was standing there, my camera was up, and I was going to get the photo. I was just waiting for them to clear out, at some point in time. But this is the image that it then became. And I think, was a lovely image of this waterfall. It's a spectacular waterfall, and there's another view of it from a little farther down the trail, looking upwards, where you can get some of the flow coming off it in the other direction as well. But great waterfall for Glacier. This here is Swift Current Lake over in Many Glacier area. This is right in front of the hotel. You can see the smoke in the sky. This was at sunset here. Sun's over on the right-hand side, coming and hitting the mountains over there. And little longer exposure, smoothing out the water in the lake here. And that became this here. Once again, I think that enhanced considerably in black and white. Still a little haze going on here, but I don't think it hurts anything in this photo. We have some wonderful light coming on the side of this mountain here, over in here, skimming across here, and especially on the water down below. Just makes for a great looking lake. Glacier is just a wonderful place to photograph. Here we are back in Trinidad. I was telling you about the motion here. You can see the motion going out here, and doesn't look like too much there, but it looks a lot more when I do it this way here. And so I've been really concentrating on trying to find those places and taking a lot of photos in order so that I can capture those just at the right speeds in the right places. Okay, done with those. Moving on to taking photos. We're going to talk just a little bit about cameras and what I use. There's a couple pictures here. Some cameras that I use out there on the beach, and how they look. It's wonderful that they have those viewfinders in the back. So currently I'm using Nikon Z7 IIs. I have a couple of those. Also have an 850, which I was using before, but I've really pretty much only using my Z7 IIs now. I also have an 800E that I converted to infrared. I've been doing some of those images. And a lot of the images that you see in here, I had a Fuji GFX 50R for a few years, and I did a lot of images with it. But I finally decided that Did it, so the 50R, the GFX cameras, they have a larger sensor size. And so in theory and in reality, they do produce a better quality digital file. And so I could see that in as I looked at it on my computer. But and when I made prints, maybe, but the reality was that I don't think anybody else could see it. You know, and they produced a nice file and it came out really good. And if I didn't, it's a little larger camera, the lenses are a little larger, and it was heavier and larger for the whole system to carry it around. I still had my Nikons that I was using, and I feel like the Z cameras have just given excellent results for me. I was hoping that the Z8 was going to have some feature that I could justify to buy it, but I didn't find any. Uh, it's a nice camera. It was going to cost me, what are they running, $3,500 to $4,000 for the body? And what did I really get for that? I got the same sensor, I got the same size file that I did with my Z7 II, which was a nice compact little camera. I already had two of them, and I've just decided that that was the camera I was going to use. I'm hoping that maybe it'll come out with a Z7 III with some enhanced focusing and features. But at the moment, I've been very happy with my Z cameras. Lenses, I use mostly the 24 to 120 Z lens, which is an S lens on my camera. I also use the 14 to 30 wide angle, the f4 there, and a variety of others, the 2470, 70 to 200, which are both traditional lenses. In the Fuji, I was using the 45 to 100, which equals 36 to 79 if you were to convert it down to full format, 35 format size. Excuse
Hey,
me.
Gary, this is
Yes.
Scott. Hey, I'm curious, have you tested any of the black and white only digital cameras?
I haven't, and somebody else has asked me about that, and I have seen negatives for the black and white only digital camera, and I think it's a great idea. But so much work that I do in Photoshop involves using those color filters that are in, excuse me, in Photoshop. Let me get a drink of water here. In order to enhance tones, in those files with those black and white cameras, they just don't contain that color detail in there in order to be able to change the tones of the black and whites. Because I do use that red filter and that yellow filter when I convert these to black and white in order to enhance different parts of it or to darken the sky down. And I think it's a great idea, but just doesn't contain that information. So I'm not sure that that's the perfect camera for me, but I like the idea.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Interesting answer. I didn't give any thought to the reasoning for post-processing the color images versus just using a black and white only camera. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, that was my take on it. So I said I use mostly Nikon cameras. Any camera will take and produce interesting, exciting, and excellent black and white images. It's not the camera that creates the image, it's the photographer behind the camera. Whether you use Canon or any of the other cameras out there, they're all going to produce excellent photos. And, almost every digital camera today makes an excellent file. And almost every one of them, regardless of image format or size, will produce beautiful black and white images. So just keep that in mind for anybody who's interested in black and white photography. All the cameras will work great. Tripod, I use Gitzo tripods. This was a 4500 tripod here. I use carbon tripods. I think carbon reduces the weight and also reduces the vibration to the camera from through the tripod. I had used Bogen aluminum tripods for years and moved on to carbon tripods, and I also now have a 3500 carbon Gitzo tripod that I use even more because it's a little bit lighter and a little bit less weight in order to carry around. My Z cameras weigh a little bit less than my 850 did with the lens on it. You need to have a substantial tripod if you're going to take anything with long exposures or if you're going to be out in any kind of wind at all, because you don't want that camera to be top heavy on a tripod that's too light and have it falling over. I hate to say that that happened at once, but it did. And so I always try and I use a very heavy tripod. I use a Really Right Stuff head. That's the BH40, which is the mid-size one. I use the L plates on both my Nikon and Fuji so that I can easily turn the camera from horizontal to vertical. I use a tripod for 99% of all the images that I take. Tripod makes images sharper and always needed for long exposures. Taking photos, I use aperture priority on everything. I set the f-stop and the camera sets the shutter speed. I use mainly 11, 16, 22. Sometimes 22 isn't as good. But, many images that I take, I will change that f-stop if I have water in there so that if I change the f-stop, that changes the shutter speed and gives me different looks and different variations of how the water's going to come out. Bracketing, depending on the contrast of the scene, I bracket many of my exposures. I never worry about the correct exposure because I always have it. If I bracket 3 stops, I'm one over. I'm a normal, one under, one over, and I always get it. High definition, I use HDR on some images at times, and depends on the scene and the contrast. If I am hand holding, I shoot at 1/250th or faster. I can't hand hold anything less than that and think that it's going to come out really sharp. Software, mentioned software before. I use Photo Mechanic. I have used Lightroom in the past. I have not necessarily been a big fan and user of Lightroom over the years. I feel like, yes, it's a wonderful system. It has some tremendous features. It does everything, but I have a couple 100,000 images and I have those stored on various drives, and those catalog functions just became so complicated in order to move these drives around and know where I was putting them and backing them up. It just was too complicated for me. And so I've been really happy, importing my images and using it as a browser in order to find images. Yeah, it doesn't have the features of saying, give me all of your pictures of Crater Lake that I've now identified, but I think it does a really nice job. I use Photoshop for all the black and white, for all my black and whites. I open the images in I use Nik Silver Effects Pro, and for the majority of my images, convert black and white. Some I use Photoshop black and white. I also use Photomatics for HDR on a lot of images, whether it's one image or multiple images. I think it does a wonderful job of providing greater highlight detail that I want in many of my images and bringing in those shadows as well. So just a nice feature using it there. Aperture priority, I use, the Z cameras in the 850 only go to 30 seconds. I'm using auto exposure, and you can use longer exposures using a cable release. The Z is set up, you can do exposures up to 15 minutes. Fuji goes up to 60 minutes. Automatically, they have spots that you can do that. Exposures become much more questionable then. I do use an iPhone app for long exposure calculator. I use a lot of neutral density filters in order to give me longer exposures. I only use screw-in filters. I have a variety of brands. Color cast using the factor in my black and white, so it really doesn't matter. I find that they all give wonderful images and never, degrade it, whether it's, no matter what kind I'm using. black and white, Nikon, I use them all. And I use a 3-stop, 6-stop, 9-stop, variety of 15-stop if it's during the daytime. But most of my images are taken early morning when it's dark or late in the afternoon. 2 minutes is usually my longest exposure. But, I do use these, I just screw these little neutral density filters on. I keep them in a little case in my pocket. It's quick, it's easy. And the most important about the screw-in filters is I can then use a lens shade in order to block block light from hitting my lens, as well as sometimes rain or mist from falling on the lens. With the larger drop-in plastic filters that you put in the front there, creating or having a lens shade for those is a little more difficult and complicated in order to do those. I think that's a great system, but it's just not the one that I use. We're going to take a look at a few images here. Here's my camera taking a log up in the Sierras on the beach here. And here we are that looks like it's in Zion, doesn't it? And that's the Fuji camera down on the bottom right there. Here we are out on the beach, up in the snow. That was with my older Bogan aluminum tripod that I used to use. That's with my I had as my 800 before I converted it to infrared. Here's in the forest, you can see some great light, coming through there. You have to, that if you want to have the most spectacular redwood pictures, you have to have that light breaking through the fog. Up in the Sierras in the wintertime. Okay, some other thoughts here. So what am I looking for when I'm out preparing to take a photo? Content of the image is the most important part of the image. I look for subject matter that catches my eye as interesting. This could be almost anything. Sometimes I try and capture the landscape in a traditional look. Other times I try and show what is unique about the landscape. They are both important, and I try and capture both with many of my photographs. Other times I'm looking at the landscape as beautiful or dramatic. We all see in different ways based on our lifelong experiences. What is common to one person is unique to another. What makes a great photo? That leads us to that and says, okay, so we could take that word great and we could replace it with award-winning or spectacular or dramatic or photo that sells a lot or liked by a lot of people. But I've used just the word great here to simplify this. And my answer is content. So color landscape photography has content with color to help create a great photo. Black and white landscape photography only has content. So content equals, in my estimation, subject matter, artistic intent, image quality, layout, design, presentation, and more. They all enter together there and work together in order to create content. And that's what I want to take. So even though we don't have color, we do have some tools to help make great black and white images. Those tools are light, line, pattern, texture, motion, and atmosphere. And I find that any one of these or more of them in my image will make the image more interesting to me and sometimes to others as well. A few examples. So here we have some light coming through the forest here. That light in that forest, that makes this just a knockout image in my mind. So I've been fortunate enough. You have to be there. It's really it's at the right place at the right time in order to get these. So you can make a trip to someplace just like I did to Glacier and hope that you're going to get great images there. But it's for the person that lives down the street from Glacier and is there all the time. That's who's the person that's getting these images. You have to be there and have to be out a lot taking those images. Here we are in Death Valley, and we have the light going on Zabrowski Point here. Once again, that sunset light going across the basin there, making just a beautiful highlight on it. Over the water here, reflecting on the ocean, creating some rays on the sand. El Capitan, Yosemite here, the light, early morning sunrise light coming on it. And so light is an extremely part of creating dramatic and the best and great black and white images. Here we have some line. Lines are very important. These trees had some nice lines. This sand dune going across here, the line going across the top, from here to there. That just makes a wonderful image. And so where am I? I'm standing on the top of this sand dune right on that little peak back here, photographing off into the distance. I'm looking for spots where there are no footprints going across here. We have some beautiful light at sunrise. That's where you have to be in order to do that. Here we are. You can see this, once again, this light following the line back here, the light going over to there. So we're using both light and line in there. We talked about patterns with this image prior. Here we are in Death Valley, salt flats, and the wonderful patterns. I'm sure everybody's seen these images before and probably made them themselves because this is such a wonderful area in order to photograph. Here we have some texture on the sand dunes. The texture here, we're talking about this tree root here. That's really what we look at, is this gnarly tree root on the great looking rocks below it. Some more texture in the sand here coming across, a windblown texture. Motion, short exposures. That same beach that I was just photographing, remember the one, this is Baker Beach with the rays of light coming down. This is the same rocks and the same beach on a day when there was some spectacular waves coming in and breaking, when there was a storm at sea and it's coming in and it's right down there on the beach. So I'm not on the beach, I'm off the beach, on a trail that goes down there because it's way too dangerous to be down there in that area at all. Here's another one of the water breaking on the rocks there. So then we have long exposures. This was in Iceland, and have wonderful exposures here of the waterway and of waterfall in the background. Waves going over the rocks here, creating a misty look there. Motion, we already talked about lines and motion in the water, and I've really been concentrating on trying to find places that this is being done with when the tide is coming in just right. Here we have some more lines there, and slow motion on the water there, creating kind of a mystical look, which I just love. Atmosphere. So I'm looking, when I'm out taking pictures, if I see areas where the clouds are going into the mountains, or is fog. I mean, those are images that I'm really looking to say, okay, where can I find a picture, in here? Is there something I can photograph? And this is the Grand Tetons and over by Yellowstone there, and clouds were going all the way down into the mountains there across the Tetons. This was up in the foothills near Paradise, by the way, in a little foggy morning there, and just off Skyway there. This was in Yellowstone, and you can see the mist that's coming up, fog that's coming off of the water here in Yellowstone, going up into the sky, created some great looks with the atmosphere. So I thought we would talk about the zone system just a little bit here. Zone system. So zone system is a system exposure development and printmaking to create a print with proper tonal range and the best detail and shadow and highlight parts of the print. I use the zone system for over 30 years to make my black and white large format negatives and prints. Today, I still try and incorporate the zone system values or thoughts or visions into my images. The first books this little yellow book here was the first book that I had almost 50 years ago, 50 years ago on zone system photography. It's a great little manual by Minor White. He then came out with a larger and revised version with a couple other photo writers there on the new zone system manual. Both of those you can find, on Amazon for anybody who's interested. Ansel Adams was the photographer that made the zone system most famous with his books, The Negative and the Print, amongst many others. These are both excellent books that are going to tell you about how these are done. This little chart down here, there was a little book that held all of these pieces of paper, and every photographer that did sheet film and still does sheet film that's using the zone system today recorded his information about his scene and negatives on these little type of charts. In Ansel's book, he talks about the zone system and how it's worked and where to put those zones. This meter here in the center, the largest one, that's a Honeywell spot meter. Used to be a little zone scale that you can put right on the side there. That was a meter I had, and almost every other photographer that did zone system work at the time. It was really the standard of the large format photographers of what they used. And a great meter for 1 degree. Here's a little chart that shows the zone system matched up with different scenes. Zone 3 was our darkest shadow that we wanted, darkest area or part of the print that we wanted to have detail in. And zone 7 was the lightest part that would create a normal image. And then if it wasn't normal, then you processed your negative with minus and plus development in order to give you the best quality negative, so that you're always able to print those negatives from brightest highlight to the darkest shadows on normal paper in the darkroom, and with the greatest amount of ease in doing it. After Ansel, there was a lot of people, who did zone system. Fred Picker was one of them. He came out with the zone system workshop. He created a whole line of photo equipment here. That little camera right there in the middle, that was my 8x10 zone 6 camera. But he created darkroom equipment and enlargers and everything for the large format black and white zone system photographer. He then, as he got along in years, he sold his business off to Calumet when Calumet was still operating, and they then sold all this equipment also. I said that I make black and white photos. So people today that are taking pictures with their phone, and I think it's wonderful that they take pictures with their phone. I take hundreds of images, thousands of images. I at the moment I probably have 25,000 images on my phone right now, and of images that I take with it. Every time I go out and photograph with my digital camera, I take digital images as well. But print and making prints is probably not a consideration for the majority of people that go out and take pictures today. But every image that I take today, every image that you looked at or that I showed you so far, every one of those I have made an 8.5 by 11 test print of, to make certain that it was acceptable, that it printed right. These images down here in the bottom, that stack over on the left, I had a stack almost 3 feet tall of black and white images. I take a lot of images of black and white images in the Paradise home that unfortunately burned to dust. But today I have another 1.5 feet of them sitting in the room next to me right here now. But I make prints that look just like these, and if they don't come out the first time, I make corrections in that Photoshop file, and I make a new image, or I change the image if the highlights or shadows aren't correct, or if I see those wicked little sensor spots up there in the sky that I somehow missed. I make another image, and so that I have a final print of that image as well. And I know that if I see that image in my file and looking for some print, I know that that black and white file in my finished files is a good ready to print image. I shoot everything in RAW, and I save them at a full RAW size. Somebody asked me if I ever if I edit my photos or and I don't. I have every image that I've taken. When the morning of the fire, I have my computer under my arm and my hard drives, my current hard drives in a box under the other arm as I walked out the door there. And interesting thing is I had another set of those hard drives, 4 hard drives in the Wells Fargo bank down the street there. That bank half burned, and but the vault and the safety deposit box that they were in was unharmed. But it took 6 months before they would let anyone into that bank in order to be able to get their stuff out of the safety deposit box. Just a little tidbit about that fire.
Hey, Gary, can you speak a little bit about the papers that you
Sure.
use for your prints?
Yes. So I was using and still am using Epson Hot Press Natural. And I used that for years. I think it's a really nice paper. It's a little warmer. And I think that it gives a nice look. It's a it's for the quality of paper that it is, it's a little bit more reasonably priced than some of the higher brand ones out there. But the lately I've been using Canson papers and the rag photography, and I think that it's a beautiful paper, and it certainly is much whiter, doesn't contain any optical brighteners in it, and produces some beautiful looking images. And I've been using it for the past couple of years. And but those are really the two papers that I use the most. The next 4 slides, this is a photographer that I met a few years ago. We've been in there used to be a magazine called Long Exposure, a magazine out there, and a Facebook group with it. And I met Theo Kafalopoulos, who's a Greek photographer, and he then posted these images on Facebook. And I just wanted to show them to you so that once again you could get a further idea of how to see and what people see when they take pictures. So here's his camera taking pictures of these sticks or whatever in the water there. He does some wonderful images, and I have a few more later on, but I think that he does a great job, and it doesn't look like much. Once again, it's a nondescript day of just these things out there, and what kind of image, what are you going to get out of that is what someone might say. But this is what he got out of it, and I think he does a lot of minimalistic looking stuff here, and I think that he got a beautiful looking image of those sticks. He does a lot of this fade outs in the background and a lot of long exposures and makes some great images. Here's another one of a boat. Doesn't look like much. It's not even, he once said he doesn't go out first thing in the morning. He just photographs whenever he wants to, and he goes out during the day and he takes pictures of whatever he sees and makes these images. And that doesn't look like much there, but this is the image that he made out of it, and I just wanted to show you these couple images here because I felt like, they really get to the heart of the matter of the potential of creating artistic looking black and white images and the potential of what's out there if we only open our eyes and see other things and know what they can create. Other examples of favorite photographers. So here I'll go through these quickly. We got a couple of oldies here of Ansel Adams and Clearing Winter Storms. These are favorite photographers of mine. Grand Tetons, Edward Weston at Dunes in Oceania. Paul Caponero. Paul Caponero, by the way, just passed away a couple months ago now. His son, John Paul Caponero, you may be familiar with as well, but his father did some beautiful looking black and white images. And here's another one of his. Wayne Bullock also does some beautiful work. John Sexton, I did a workshop with John Sexton probably 30 years ago now, where I went to his home in Carmel. That's back when I was doing large format and spent the week there doing his workshop and, learned a tremendous amount about how he does these images. He does a lot of Yosemite stuff. He was one of Ansel's, I'm sure most people are familiar with him, but one of Ansel's assistants. Clyde Butcher. If for those aren't familiar with Clyde Butcher is really the photographer of the Everglades down in Florida. He does beautiful work. He has 2 galleries down there. He does 30 by up to 30 by 40. He has a dark room the size of a small house. And I had a friend who was living there who knew him, and we went to his gallery there, and he gave us the tour, and I did a picture with him. It was just great. But he does some wonderful work, has a beautiful website. And if you aren't familiar with Clyde and you're interested in black and white Everglades photography or a lot of other places, he does some beautiful work. He's also, aging as well, having difficulty getting around these days, but does some great work. But he's photographed all over these Everglades down there. Michael Kenna. For those, I show you Michael Kenna because Michael Kenna is really one of my most favorite photographers that working today. He is probably the most famous black and white photographer currently in the world. He has dozens of books. He photographs and exhibits in at least a half dozen countries. So a year ago, he was in Carmel and came out with a new book, had an exhibit at the Center for Photographic Art there. And I went down there and was fortunate enough to meet him. Also got a picture with him and took pictures of while he was there. It was just a great event and a tremendous photographer. Look at his books if you're interested in black and white. Has just spectacular work and clearly is doing. So he photographs everything on film, by the way, on Hasselblad on square format, and uses the same format that he always did. Almost all of his images that he makes are 8 by 10 and 11 by 14 boards. And great, great, great job and beautiful work. But Michael Kenna is the guy. And Theo, this is Theo. I showed you, and this is the photographer from Greece who was doing the boat photo that I just showed you. But again, minimalistic type of work that he does. Then Sure Yang is from Taiwan, and he does some beautiful black and whites as well. You can see the style, the look. This is Nathan Worth. Nathan is in the Bay Area. He also does some just gorgeous black and white. These are all stylized in look that I like. You may not be a look that you like, but certainly for me, these are all great photographers who are doing some marvelous work in black and white. Nathan does a lot of Bay Area type stuff, as well as on the beach. This is up in Bend, and you can see Cole Thompson is in Utah. He's also doing some motion in his water. Jennifer Wu, photographer in the Sacramento area. Charlotte Gibb is a Bay Area photographer. She does a lot of color, but also some black and white. These are all just wonderful photographers doing beautiful work here. I just wanted to show you a few samples of those because this is a inclusive type of black and white discussion that we're having today. And so if you're interested in more work like that, go to Google, type in black and white photographic landscape art, and you can see many of these photos will come up and who these people are. You might look here in this picture here, and you can see my little book right up in here as well. Just a little fun little tidbit I thought I'd mention. So I have are we doing okay on time? I have another.
Actually, Gary, I think we're gonna have you stop there. I think we've got tons of inspiration, and we do still need to go through our pictures, although looking at them compared to these, it's a little I told Rick it's a good thing our camera was muted, or computer was muted, because every time you put up one of your pictures, we were gasping and oh my gosh. So, but it's been very inspirational. And I think that if people go to your website and look at more of your work and stuff, they will find even more to love.
That's great.
Um,
Well, the only images I had left here were just a selection of recent images. So that's a good place in order to stop because the only thing that we then see is another 50 or 100 images that I've done over the past 5 years. So it's a good thing we got through all of the slides that I really wanted to show, and I'm thankful for that.
Great. I'm gonna give you a couple minutes to get a drink of water
Okay.
and have Ron switch over to sharing his screen for our slideshow. And while that's happening, Eric Nansen, are you still with us? Don't know if he is. Eric?
You're muted.
I see Eric there.
So I do have
Yes.
my notes here on the red and green and prepared to talk about that for a little bit then too.
Eric, if you're there, can you unmute, please? And I just wanted you to take a minute or two to tell us a little bit more about what you're looking for this art show that you posted about. Okay, I don't think we have Eric. So Ron, can you go ahead and I think Gary, you need to quit sharing your screen, maybe.
I did.
Okay, and so Ron, can you put our slideshow up?
Gosh, I see Eric moving in his chair.
I don't know what's going on.
You're muted, Eric.
Hit your space bar.
I'm unmuting it. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can hear you now.
but Gary, we
Sorry.
still have your screen up. Let's see.
You see see me on the screen or no?
I got you now.
Okay, great. Anyway, so yeah, I am curating a show at the Old City Hall Gallery this summer, and I'm in two different groups. I'm in your guys' group for, excuse me, photography, and also for the Shasta woodworking group. And so I'm going to be doing a gallery show that's called Picks and Sticks or Sticks and Picks. So the picks with photography, pictures, and the sticks for woodworking. I was inspired because I love the work in both of these groups, and I wanted to highlight that. And so basically what I was just saying, if you guys were interested in showing in a professional setting where the show is hung, there'd be an opening reception. And I haven't received any pictures from you guys, but if you're interested, I was asking that you would just messenger me in Facebook, like your favorite best 10 photos you've ever done in your lifetime. And I could just select images through there. I'd be looking depending on how many people submit. If everybody submits, it'd be only one or two images from everybody. And basically the photography would be on the walls and the woodworking would be on pedestals in 3D. So are you guys interested in showing in that type of scenario?
I'm sure there will be some people who are. So there isn't a particular theme that you need. It can be just any of their best work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would put it as you guys know me from the group somewhat. I mean, I'm looking, it just really doesn't really matter. I mean, I prefer, more artistic, interesting strange, whatever, but it doesn't have to be what I like. Just, I mean, because, like I said, when I've seen the work of you guys showing stuff, all of you guys, they've had some gobstopping, jaw-dropping photos. And so that's just basically looking for the best work. And I thought it would be an easy way, just like I said, picking your 10 best, and you can just messenger me. That way I can have your name, I'll have the images, I can select through, and we'd have plenty of time. And all you'd have to do is frame the ones that I select, and the Old City Hall, the gal who does the layout of it is Agatha. And so she's very good at doing that. And like I said, we'd have a reception and all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, anybody who's interested, just
Oh, Eric, when do we need to have the initial ones to you?
what was that?
When do we need to have the initial ones sent to you through Messenger?
Agatha is getting back to me to finalize exact dates, because I'm going to be curating 2 different shows. But as for you guys, so I'm still, and I know June, I believe I'm locked in on June. And then the other one would either be July or August, I think. So she said by the middle of January here, I would know the exact dates, and so I can give you that. But you should have plenty of time to prepare here.
So
So
you give it some thought and then post again when you know, okay, here's the deadline by when I need your images, okay?
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I'll be looking forward to seeing what people turn in for that too. So, Ron, are you ready? And Gary, to make a few comments on our red and green entries?
You want me to just go one or two? You want me to play them 5 seconds each or something?
Just start with the first one and we'll let Gary make his comments. And then Gary, when you're ready for the next one, just tell him next, okay?
So, thought this was a wonderful, I loved all of the images. I thought they all came out great. I think it's a hard assignment in order for someone to come up with something exciting and different using red and green. But I thought this was a wonderful image, and love the red in the foreground. I love the appearance of motion with it and the trees in the background. One of my favorite images here. So I was said, don't have a lot to say. So I made short comments on all of them. Okay.
Okay.
Pets always make great, cute photos. This one is especially nice with the colors that were added, with the top of it and with the bells in the front there, and fun little picture. And, I take pictures of my dog all the time as well. So nice picture. Bird here. So I think it's a really nice picture of the bird. Bird does have some red and some green in it there, and it makes it's a beautiful stop action of this bird. And I really enjoyed looking at it. Let's see, portrait, lovely portrait and model. Red hair, green outfit, clearly are the star of this image here. Beautiful lighting on her face, by the way, and I think it works really well for this assignment. Christmas lights. They did add some color here. The red, the green, and up in the bells, up in the tower there, created a nice look. And I enjoyed looking at it. Christmas lights in this tree at night. It's a nice night shot. Clearly, this tree has been filled with these lights, and it created an interesting picture of them. Lots of green going on in there. These flowers, I thought the flowers were beautiful flowers. They had some really nice lighting on them, by the way, just soft lighting skimming across them. The red flowers, the green stems added it was a lovely look, and I like that image a lot. This bird, it's a great looking bird. We do have a little red and green in it. It's not the strongest part of the image here, but the bird looks great and the background looks wonderful. And I think it's a nice picture of this bird. Some red leaves here with the green hazy background there. They really stand out against the green. There's some nice, interesting light going across these fall leaves and strong dramatic color on those leaves. This one here of the water with these little dots and the droplet of it. I really liked this image a lot. It has motion in it, has kind of waves going on with these little dots and whatever this is. Difficult for me to tell what it is, but the colors of the red and green, really were a strong part. And the fact that we have this droplet and did the stop motion on that, I thought were just excellent. Pomegranates on the tray, lots of red and green. Those pomegranates are wonderful, always for subject matter for photos, and they're beautifully displayed here. The tray is an interesting looking tray with the red and green in it, but the pomegranates are really the star of the photo. Nice bunch of red berries here. I clearly like the texture in the stems. I thought that enhanced it a lot. I don't know. I'm not sure if these are crab apples or just berries of some kind, but they are really nice. And they're also nicely lit. So we have, yes, start and stop. Red and green, it really catches our eye. Which do we see first, red or green? At times I look at this and I ask that question, and I suppose I see the green first, but you can, as you look at it, you decide what you think too. Beautiful red rose here with soft lighting, nice texture, looking great. Love seeing the inside of the rose as well there. Has some little green leaves in the bottom there in order to enhance and add to our color. Beautiful little bird here with a red head there and a nice green bush that it's sitting on. Looks like it's chirping away, and it's a lovely capture of it. So we have the three glasses here. We have the red, the green, and the empty glass. Always made me wonder what was in that empty glass there, and why it was there, and what was going to go in it, and did we drink it already, or are we going to put something else in it? But nice work with the red and green. Beautiful red hair on this model here. Once again, beautiful models and always make for wonderful photos. And the hair is strikingly red here. Clearly a dramatic look with that hair. These circles of red and blue green here, are interesting. I think that they create, whether they're flare or whether they're something else has been photographed. I was taken with this photo and found that really the star of the image was the red and the green. Colorful foliage here, in my mind, probably enhanced just a little bit, but that red and green is striking down there. I think that's probably ice plant there, maybe, and but it's a really nice rendition here of it and makes a good looking image. On fruit, somebody clearly created this image in order to make it for the red and green assignment. Some good looking fruit. It's nicely displayed, has great light on it, and interesting. And the fruit all looks like it's wonderful and ready to eat. Another lovely model here. Let's see, this is 21. Another nicely posed. Looks like a model shoot, here of somebody that photographer was out taking photos. She just happened to either it was planned or she happened to have her green dress to go with her red hair, and it made for a really nice portrait of her. And some red and green, great colors here for Christmas. That red is striking. The green in the background is traditional, and I thought it was a really nice looking Christmas photo here. Nice high key image of some wine and roses, some petals down there in the bottom. The white background, the high key look, creates a wonderful image. Clearly a staged commercial type of image, but it was nicely done, and I think that the photographer did a great job. And the red rose here, and the green stem. So, I look at the red, once again, I look at that red rose, but, these leaves are a very important part of this photo as well. And I thought it was nicely done. I like the shine on the leaves and how well they came out. Number 25, we have our grocery store avocados and tomatoes there, and they're looking really nice. And they fit the assignment well.
Okay, so then what we would ask you to do is first tell us your third place number, and then your second place, and then your first place.
Okay, so I think it's a really unusual selection for me as that I've made on these photos here. But so my third place is number 18. There's number 18, and that is my third place. And why did I think that? I thought that because, first of all, I didn't know what these circles were and how they were created. I thought it was a great abstract image. I think that the colors are really the star of this image. The circles here in the background, they all blend together in order to create just a fascinating looking abstract. And and that's what I picked for the third place.
This one was made by Deidre. I don't know if Deidre is with us, but if you are, Deidre, you want to unmute yourself and say anything?
Yep, I'm here, and I just was going for that effect, the abstract effect of the Christmas lights on the Christmas tree. So that's what that is.
Okay. That's good to know. Well, I liked it, and I thought it was an interesting photo.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Number 10 is my second place one. Here's number 10. So once again, I thought that this was a wonderful photo. Who's the star of this picture? The red and green. And in addition to that, we have this wonderful drop that was caught in stop action here, coming down into the water. I love the motion of the water, and excuse me, but I think that what made the image was the wonderful use of the color, and that's really what I felt was the assignment was red and green, and I thought we should be showing the red and green in its strongest positions in these photos, and so that was my second place.
And this one is Rick's.
Yeah, it was a water drop. The red and the green is glitter. The green was really an interesting one because it almost looked blue at times, depending on the light. So I had to play with it in Lightroom a little bit to get the green color, but it was a fun shoot.
Yeah, no, I thought it came out great, and love that water droplet there. Really caught my attention. It had some impact, and that's really what why I thought it was one of the winning images. And number one, is number one. Yes, this was the first one I saw. Immediately, I liked this image. The strong colors, the red, the green. I love the fact that we looked at this red and green in the foreground. Our eyes went back to these trees, and then there was some more red and green back in there. I thought the whole thing was just a great image. It was once again really strong for the assignment because it really highlighted those colors, and it was it was different and, unusual and created a great look. So congratulations to all, to all three of you, the ones that I chose here. They were all really kind of similar, but I thought that they became the strongest and had the most impact images of the group.
And this one is Dan's. Are you with us, Dan?
Oh, that's Sylvia. That's my picture. Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Yeah, that was at the Reading Garden of Lights, and I was looking around, and I just saw there had to be something beautiful there, and I hope to have captured it, and I was quite pleased the way it came out. So thank you.
You're welcome. I thought it was great. And that yellow tree or white tree in the middle there, that really adds to it as well. Just a really nice Christmas light display there for this assignment.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gary. We're gonna go through these and let it identify each person that took them. I know you might be getting tired. If you'd like to still stay with us, feel free to do that. But if you're ready for a rest after your long evening of speaking, we just want to really thank you for not only judging, but presenting all your work. And our next theme for next month is black and white. So
okay.
hopefully everyone is well inspired at this point, and we can only hope to create something approaching what you do. So thank you again so much. We really appreciate it. And we'll let you go if you want to, or feel free to stay with us. We're just going to go through these one at a time and let each person identify themselves, and so that people know who took the rest of the pictures.
Okay, well, it's been wonderful, and I thank you very much for inviting me, and it's been a pleasure and an honor in order to be able to talk about my photography. There is more to black and white photography than just landscapes, whether it's architecture or cityscapes or still lifes, they all can make wonderful black and whites. And so, try and think about that for your assignment as well, because there clearly is much more to the world of black and white than just the landscape out there. It just happens to be what I do and what I'm passionate about. And I'm glad I was able to come here and present my work to you. So thank you very much for the honor.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank
I'll
you.
send you the slideshow of what we come up with next month, just so you can kind of hopefully see your influence on it.
Okay, great. That'd be wonderful. If anyone has any questions or concern, please contact me. Happy to share any information on how images are made. It's on my website, but it's gary@garywagner.com, and or message me on Facebook. I'm happy to talk with anybody about how to make images and what I do, or if you have any questions about the presentation.
Yeah,
So thank you very much.
I'll be sending you an email, Gary.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay. See ya.
Okay. Number 2 is Lisa's. Are you here, Lisa?
Nope.
Nope. This is
She
Jack.
had she had an archery shoot tonight.
Okay.
Is she here?
She's not.
This one is Jack Morrison's.
I don't think he's here.
Okay. This one is your People's Choice winner, and this is Mark Barron's.
Mark. Why did I have a feeling that was Mark?
Beautiful, Mark.
Why would I think that, Mark?
I don't know.
Looks like
this was in the San Francisco City Hall a few weeks ago, and this was a model that we had hired for our workshop, and it's a young girl from Monterey.
Well, you couldn't have found a better model for this challenge.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. She came out in the green outfit, and I just said, "Okay, I know what I need to photograph this for." So.
That's great.
Beautiful, Mark.
This one is Patricia's.
Where's that?
I don't think she's here. Go ahead. This is Paul Layman's.
Just a tree from the Garden of Lights that I basically darkened everything out, but the lights on the tree.
This one's mine. When Patrick passed away, actually, this what are they called?
Amaryllis?
Amaryllis was
Amaryllis.
given to us, and it was the most gorgeous flower, and it's just done in window light. This is Vicky's. She was here. This is Jane's.
That's me on mine, and I, as usual, was just wandering around in Mother Nature. Happened to see those leaves, and I liked the colors and the shadows on them and the different textures and lighting, so I took a picture.
And that one's Rick's again, and then this is Susan's.
Yeah, this was just pomegranates that I had at my house, and it's a copper tray, but in playing with it in post came up with the green and red on it.
This is Scott's.
Yes, always wandering around on the Churn Creek trails on the lower side of the Lima Ranch and found those berries on a manzanita.
Oh, they're not pyracantha berries, huh?
No, no, I don't like thorns.
My parents used to live their place where they lived. They had those pyracantha berries, and the robins every year would come and get drunk eating those things.
Yes.
Make a big mess.
This one is Bonnie Lee's.
Yep, this is what happens when you're traveling and you're stuck in an industrial park for the day. My son has a business down there. It was raining, and they just happened to have huge gas station there. And I thought it's the only color in the entire parking lot. I had taken other green and red. It was an unexpected trip, and I decided, well, that definitely matched the assignment. It's not my proudest moment, but at least I got it done.
This is Richard Toll's.
Just another beautiful red rose.
And how many layers?
Probably in the neighborhood of 70 to 80.
Amazing. This is Sharon's.
Oh yeah, that's my Western tanager up in Eagle Lake, and I took it last summer, but I tried to come up with something different for red and green, and I wasn't happy with it, so I went back to an oldie that I had.
This is Tom's.
Yeah, just put a pane of glass from a tabletop on top of a white cardstock and filled two of the glasses with food coloring in the water. And that's it.
It's Tom's. No wonder I liked it.
This is Carmen's.
She gone?
And she's gone. And Deidre. This is Doug's. This is Heather's.
I took that while I was in Vermont and found more beautiful strawberries than I could find in California, and some Macintosh apples, and it was the best I could do with some lighting using a side lighting from an iPhone.
This is Janet's.
That's mine. I took it at a workshop we had with Mark a couple of weeks ago at the undercover workshop with the Panoptic chopstick guys. And she happened to be wearing green and red hair.
It's beautiful. This is Julie's. I don't think she's with us anymore. This is Matt's.
Yeah, just trying to come up with something. I figured everybody was on the holidays, so something different.
I think it's very creative.
Thank you.
This is Mike's. I think he's got, and this is Ron's.
Ron's. You know, I saw that there's a show I watch on Saturdays, California Bountiful, and they were showing this this nursery, big industrial nursery, poinsettias. I was trying to find something in town, but nobody had, you know, a big lot. So I realized I was doing my shopping. I realized I had a day or two left, and I better get something.
Yep.
So Safeway Produce.
Yep. Always works. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the meeting. I hope you're inspired to do some beautiful black and white. That's our next theme. So we'll be looking forward to what you do. And hang on, I can probably tell you when they're going to be due. Our next meeting is February 4th. So the pictures will be due January 28th. So you have 2 or 3 weeks here to get out and get a great black and white picture.
So one thing I was hoping that Gary was going to be able to show us what exactly he does with Nick and Photoshop. You know, spend like 5 minutes, and I think he'll do that. I was wondering if anybody else is interested in seeing that. I might see if I can set up a little Zoom meeting for him to do 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'd love to see him actually edit one of those.
I have a ton of
because the
questions.
change
Yeah.
from amazing.
I'll put something on the Facebook club page and just, you know, add to the comments if you'd be interested, and I'll try to set something up for us, because it sounded like he was quite open to doing that.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'd be interested. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see what he does with the colors. You know, he said he uses that quite a bit to get his black and whites the way he wants them. So I have a small understanding of it, but obviously he's mastered it. So I want to hear more.
Yeah. Okay, well, happy holidays, everyone. Happy New Year, all that kind of stuff. Get out and take some great pictures, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.